Okay, so we talked about goosebumps. I think that's the last thing we did. We'll go on to nails. So they protect your fingers and your toes. The nail plate is what we really call the nail. It's a hard protein structure made of keratin. And that's over the nail bed. The nail bed would be the skin below the nail.
So how is your fingernail or nail plate attached to your actual like finger?
How,
What attaches there?
how is it attached?
Yeah.
Well, because those cells make the keratin. And so as they make it, it's bound to the cells.
So
As
is
it,
it possible for it to to be pushed up like and out? Or like when it
Sure.
happens,
Yeah, you can definitely. Now that's gonna be painful when that happens. If it's detached from your skin, like that hurts. But it certainly can. Now the part that is detached, it's the white part of your fingernail that that is detached from the skin naturally.
Mhm.
The part that's below that's detached, you're gonna see as white as well. And so you might sometimes see that through an injury. You might see white spots, but they correct themselves and they regrow. And so it doesn't stay detached for too long. So skin cells make the nail. And so nails are part of skin because they're made from skin. The crescent moon looking thing on your nail called the lanula, that's where the nail is actually produced. It's the most actively growing region in the nail. And the new nail is pushed upward. And so the oldest nail is right here. The newest is in this area. And it grows up from there. So if ever you've had some kind of bruise or injury in your nail, you might notice that over time, it seems to move from downward upward because the nail is pushed up as it gets older. So it's called the nail matrix. So the lanula contains the nail matrix, and that's the part that is dividing the fastest. That's the part that creates new cells, and that's where you get the creation of new keratin for the nail. If that part is damaged, you might not have a nail grow back. And then below that, I mean, the yellow part is just parts of your skin. And so the fat layer, muscles, dermis is all below that, along with the bone right here. Yeah.
Is matrix just the name for wherever things grow the most?
Well, yeah, for in this context, yes. So if you're talking about skin cells, the matrix would be the part that grows the fastest, yeah. Does everybody have these down? And then I gave you your study guides too. So the packet of stuff that I gave you should have your study guide in there, along with a few worksheets. So there's a nail coloring worksheet, a labeling worksheet with the nail. So make sure you have all those things today.
Are the worksheets due tomorrow? Where got that?
Yeah, lanula, yeah. And it's named after, yeah, it means moon, right? It looks like a crescent moon. And so that's why it's called that. On this one, we went through most of this. The only thing we didn't talk about is cuticle. So a cuticle, you can see right here, it's just fold of skin right below the lanula. It's usually clear. Everything else we've already gone through. Nail matrix looks like this.
Wait, what's the purpose of the cuticle?
Just for protection. Yeah, it just helps because there would be a gap between your nail and your skin if you didn't have the cuticle there. You can see right here, it just is an extra gap right here. So it keeps out bacteria from infecting this place right here. So if you didn't have the cuticle, then you would have more viruses, bacteria enter into this area.
Would it be bad if like, I don't know, like if you get your nails, some people kind of
Yeah, I mean, there definitely is a risk of infection. It's not a huge risk nowadays, but it's definitely a small risk of having an infection of your cuticle. I mean, to me, it's a pretty slight risk. I don't think it's worth really, being concerned about, but it is a risk of infection when you do that.
Does it weaken anything?
No, it doesn't weaken it. It's just a little bit of skin. I mean, so it's not gonna like hurt anything. It's just, again, you risk having an infection, but it's not a huge risk. Okay, so we mentioned this earlier, I think, but when you have a high body temperature, a few things happen to cool you down. One thing that happens is that in your dermis, the blood vessels dilate, they get larger in size. And as it happens, you might see your veins, looks like they pop out sometimes. So if you feel really warm, then you're gonna see your veins look like they get bigger because blood needs to leave that area to cool you down. Blood carries a lot of heat, and so to cool down, blood has to leave that area, and the heat from the blood has to leave as well. And so your veins could look larger, they can move up to the surface. Your skin can appear to be red because redness comes from blood. So if your skin looks pink or red, you have more blood coming up to the surface. We have a fire drill in a couple minutes, just to give you a heads up. Well, they said it at 10, so we'll see. Sometimes it could be a little bit later, but sometime during this class period, most likely we'll have a fire drill.
Wait, have we had one all year?
We've had one or two, just not recently. I think we had like one in August and September.
I don't remember.
But yeah, so we've had a couple, just not anything recent.
Miss Molly,
Yes.
where'd the red covering go?
Oh, they told me I could take those off because they don't want, so, because if we had fire in here, it wouldn't register the fire. So they said we couldn't keep them on. So during experiments, I'll put them back on. But besides that, I had to stay off. So that's what happened.
Is that the first time they've noticed?
I guess so. The first time they told me to do it, so yeah, I guess this is the first time they noticed it. I don't know. Been out there for like 4 years.
From the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Remember that one time you decorated, like someone decorated a classroom or whatever, and like hung stuff from the ceiling, and like you had a fire drill, and they said you had to take it down.
Do you know like what it was up there that they had?
You know those like little things that like they look like a fan and like you just like go.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Can't like anything be a fire hazard? Like
Yeah.
having a notebook right here be a fire hazard?
It could be.
I feel like it's paper.
I know.
Yeah, so paper is a fire hazard. So
Yeah.
we should even have paper. We should have all computers in this school.
Yeah.
Do everything
There you go.
Was this making over to you?
Yeah, the batteries are fire hazard too. Yeah, I know.
We just shouldn't have.
My phone. Maybe that's why.
And then when you get cold, just the opposite happens. The blood vessels constrict, and so they're going to get further down below the surface. Your skin looks whiter, and so you might see pale skin when you're cold, or you could see purple or blue skin if you get really, really cold, just depending upon how cold you are. Of course, you won't have sweat glands activated when you're cold. If you stay cold for a period of time, then you'll start to shiver. And so muscles start to contract to warm you up.
Wait, when you have when you're like a cold sweat, is it sweat more because like you're nervous in that
Mhm.
sort of situation?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so you're not necessarily hot. It's just that, so adrenaline can make you sweat even if you're not
Yeah.
hot.
Okay.
So you can sweat when you're nervous, not to cool you down, but it's just a response to being nervous.
Does adrenaline make you like cold and shiver?
No, but when you're sweating, when you're not cold, that can make you cold. And so if you are sweating just because you're nervous and you're not cold, that can make you cold.
Okay, well, I was wondering, because when I broke my toe and I had to go to the hospital, like, I got really cold, and obviously hospitals are normally cold, but like, I got really cold and stuff.
And that could be for lots of different reasons, but it could be because you were stressed. And again, when you're stressed or nervous or anxious, you will sweat, not because you're cold, but because that's what happens when you have adrenaline in your body. And that could be part of it. And also, again, it is very cold in hospitals. So that's probably part of it as well. If you lose lots of blood, that can also make you cold. I don't think you lost a lot of blood though, did you? But if you lose lots of blood, you can feel cold because of that too.
Isn't that like, so is
that why they need to like cover you with like a bunch of heated blankets like before you go into surgery or
Mhm.
something? Because I remember like before I got like my appendix taken out, they had like all these heated blankets and they would like pour
Yeah.
on top of you. I guess to make sure your body was in a relaxed state before.
Exactly, because if you go through like temperature extremes, like too hot or too cold, you're gonna be stressed. So they're trying to stress your body out.
If they put you on like or like the sleeping
Mm-hmm.
medicine, and then while your body's like shivering and very like constricted, like
Mhm.
I think that you're like once you fall asleep, your whole body just like relax and come like.
Right, yeah, I mean, and actually that's not good. If you're really shivering and cold and then you go to sleep with anesthesia, that's really not good for you. You can have really low heart rate at that
Okay.
point. So it's definitely dangerous, and also it's stressful for your body to have temperature extremes like that. So they're trying to regulate your body temperature and keep you from getting too cold, because that can be bad for your heart. It can be bad, especially if you're going to sleep with anesthesia.
What are hospitals so for?
Bacteria doesn't live as well in cold temperatures, and so it's to limit the bacterial growth.
What's the coronavirus? Does it live better?
Viruses do tend to live better with cold, well, not too cold, but cool, dry temperatures. But also too, they would die from cold temperatures as well.